Dooperas y Dooperas. Today on Doop by the River, we're gonna look back at that. What a match that was down in Columbus or down in Philadelphia, down in Chester. It wasn't the high scoring game we all anticipated, but we're gonna look back at what happened as we look ahead. We're heading north of the border as we're facing off against Toronto FC. Ladies and gentlemen, you do not want to go anywhere because you do not want to miss this episode of Doop by the River. Let's get this started, guys. Doop by the River
doesn't do anything well. There is not one.
I'm sorry. There was no creativity.
As a Union fan, I take that all day.
Another DP. We need to go get Mario Balotelli. And that is right. Welcome, everyone, to Doop by the River, the show where we follow everything Philadelphia Union. And, of course, we brought to you by Philly Sports Network. Before we dive into today's episode of Doop by the River, thank you so much for tuning on in. We are live on YouTube and Twitter today. Make sure if you guys are watching this live on YouTube to make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe for all of your Doop by the River viewings. And, of course, make sure to find us wherever you stream podcasts were available on PSN Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am joined by my man, my expert in duping, Justin El Pai del Brujo Friedberg. Justin, what's going on, my man? How you feeling, brother?
You know, always a good time when talking after another Union win, and we got an interesting matchup on our hands this week.
Absolutely, man. We'll definitely get to that one. It should be very interesting. Always interesting with the boys up in Toronto. But yeah, it was a great time, and actually, it was the first time this season I was actually able to see not only Justin but Tim as well, and Courtney too. As I wandered over to 139, as I always just scattered throughout the River's End and the Heineken bar. But it was a great time down at Super Park. Beautiful weather, and we were talking about before the air, Justin, the 18,000 that were in the stands at Super Park on Saturday night. On a night where you had three other Philly sporting events that day, Sixers, Phillies, and Flyers down in South Philly. The Philadelphia Union with 18,000 strong. We got to start off with that, man. We love seeing the Sioux packed out, man.
Yeah, it was a bit surprising considering all the Philly sports going on in the city, especially out at home. But it's good to see that despite all that there's still a pretty big and positive support for the team. So, I guess Philly understands when you got to see a winner when you can.
Yeah, dude. Dingers out in Citizens Bank Park. Just golazos down Subaru Park. That's all we're trying to do here in Philadelphia this summer, man. That's our version of Hot Boy Summer there, Justin, if you know what I mean. But Justin, there was also an event last night that we need to touch upon. Another great atmosphere at Subaru Park for the U.S. men's women's team. A little bit of a beating, too.
Yeah, the second time in 3 days, they stomped all over Uzbekistan, this time 9-0. Listen, for all the people who say, oh, well, what is this show? You beat a team that's barely together, that badly. I mean, I think the scoreline obviously was a lot. It was 6-0 at the half. But the US was held without a goal in the second half for a good while, at least 25 minutes. I mean, Uzbekistan definitely, there were moments you could see that they're beginning, a country that's kind of in its early infancy with soccer. Mm-hmm. But listen, there was a pretty good crowd, all things considered. I didn't go. Tuesday night was kind of a weird, a weird spot, and with work in the morning, it was like it was one of those like I've seen the women's team play, so but it was a good chance to see a number of up and coming players that I mean, let's be honest, with the aging veterans that they have, you saw a influx of youthful talent that I think Vodka will definitely be looking at for 2023. So it'll be curious to see how we decide. But it was an interesting game, and it's always good to always down to watch soccer when it's on TV. So
Absolutely, man. And just seeing Subaru Park represent that's all we want to see for sure. But Justin, on Saturday, this past Saturday night in Subaru Park, we had our first place Philadelphian going up against the Columbus Crew in a 1-0 victory. We're gonna get into this right away. Let's start off with the lineup, the usual same 11 as we always see every week. Andre Blake in goal. Wagner, Elliott, Glesnes, and Harriel as your back line with your diamond midfield of Leon Flock, Jose Brujo Martinez, Alejandro Bedoya, and Daniel Gazdak, with, of course, the story of the match, Justin, the forwards, Julian Carranza, Mikel Ura, the debut of this pairing that we have been waiting for all season long. We got the debut of that. And then to start off this match, I mean, literally, this started off with a bang. 2 minutes in, Jose Brujo Martinez with a cross that wasn't accurate, but thank God. But Eloy Rare to catch it and then do his best impersonation of Nelson Aguilar, and he fumbles it, and it crosses the line, and boom, we get a dupe right off the bat. The Union were pressing and were attacking and for the rest of the first half. Daniel Gazek with some nice opportunities, a breakaway, and a close hitter that Eloy Room really had a great bounce back after that early goal. In the second half, Columbus had a couple nice opportunities, but the stifling defense of the Philadelphia Union were too much for this Columbus Crew side, and your Philadelphia Union win 1-0. Now, I think where we need to start this conversation, Justin, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it on social media. I mean, we've all seen it on social media, right? The lack of goals has been a topic of discussion, and just the attack in general has been a topic of discussion with this team, although they are in first place. And although I do hold that sentiment, this is a pretty damn good team that we are watching right now. But for you, what is the concern level whatsoever of the attack of the Philadelphia Union so far?
I'd say fairly low, and the reason I am not overly concerned is because of the fact of the manner in which they're winning. Outside of this game, they've scored. Outside this game, in the game against Minnesota, they've scored at least 2 goals in each of the games.
Right.
You also have to factor in that, I mean, at some point, Daniel Kazak wasn't going to score. He still did create a ton of chances, and I think that another real solid game from him. But the biggest thing is this is literally the first start for Ua and Carranza together, and I think that despite that, you saw some positive play from both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think on a night, especially the fact that again, Uwa, and I'll say this again, Uwa coming off of playing half a season with Brondby, coming off the whole visa situation, getting injured against Montreal, like it's kind of been a stop start beginning of the season for him. I saw a lot between him, Carranza, and Gazdag that still makes me feel very happy about the signing and the fact that once they all really get going, I mean, at this point, you're already again Gazdag's at 4 goals this season. Carranza got his first, and he's got 2 or 3 assists to boot. The defense is there. Like there's nothing that this defense is not going to hold up. But I think, unlike in prior years, you now have a stable of forwards that you can interchange as you will. So
Literally
that,
stable.
if the offense is a little stagnant, you can switch things up. And like I keep referencing when we talked to Danny, but he said you have not had that in the past. You have 4 different strikers now that each bring their own facet to the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's big when you look at prior year teams. And listen, at this point, I can easily see 2 10-goal scorers, and I include Gazdag in there. And I think your strikers are each going to contribute at minimum 5 goals. So I think right there, if each of them contributes 5, that's 20 goals right there. If Gazdag gets a 10, that's 30. And that's not assuming that one of your strikers doesn't get 10s. Like
Mm-hmm.
right there, that'd be 35. And between the front the striker core and your attacking mid to get that kind of production, at least that I'm picturing, is something that you haven't had in the past. And
Absolutely.
at this point, sometimes you just need lucky goals. Honestly, watching that, yeah, it wasn't a pretty goal. I still have no idea what Eli Room was doing in that moment, but it's not like the attack was bereft for chances. They absolutely made room work for for those saves. So I am not worried at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I still am seeing a lot of good things from UA and even Carranza, the runs that they have been making. You see the pace of UA, and you just see kind of the size and the crafty ability that Carranza has in that final third. And once the chemistry gets knocked down, and it starts getting a little bit warmer as well, I do think that those goals will definitely fall in. And I just think that the more these guys play together, it'll definitely help. And like you mentioned, I think Daniel Gazak is a big part of this as well. He's playing at a top form right now. It's to me, it's still early for MVP talk. Although I'm sure Zach is somewhere screaming Gazak for MVP.
I mean, what, he's second in the Golden Boot race now? Four, five's the top. Like that's
he's
not. That's not.
definitely he's definitely making a case to put himself in that conversation once we get more closer to times like who are the legit MVP candidates of the 2022 season. But my point is, if he's continue playing at the level, Carranza and get their chemistry down, dude. The Bermuda Triangle is in Chester, Pennsylvania, my guy, and it's going to be tough to stop. Like you need to have a back line and a number 6 or defensive mids, dare I say, like the Philadelphia Union, to kind of slow down. Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's starting to get a little cold. And it's funny too, Justin. Obviously, my Phillies work that I've been doing, man. It's everyone's freaking out about these bats. Everyone's freaking about the Union goals. Both will come, guys. Both will come. Give it some time, and it'll definitely be okay. But we made Eloy Room work on Saturday night, Justin, and that was really good to see, my man.
Yeah, and that's the thing I think that most people don't consider. Like, I really don't think there's truly a defense that is going to, even if they shut down the strikers, you still have a lot of potential goal scoring from, I'm going to say, almost throughout your entire lineup. Kai can hit free kicks. Jakob and Jake can both hit free kicks as well as head the ball in the box. Nate is, like, by the way, like, for a man who's about my height, he is insanely good at winning headers. Like, it's especially in the box. That's crazy. Brujo might not have too many shots on net, but he's always good for that worry. Ali's got a couple goals at this point. Leon is crashing the box. So, like, it's not like it's if at certain points you're gonna have a tough time shutting this team down completely. And at this point, as we said, they only need a couple chances to finish. We've been saying it all season. The possession isn't high. That's not the type of game that they want, which is honestly I'm okay with. Possession numbers are overrated, and they just take advantage of the limited chances they have. And in soccer, that's kind of all that matters. It and the more you think about it, the more you just realize that like you look at some of the XG numbers, and the Union are performing fairly well. I think like I said, they still given up. Was it now at this point? Now they're tied for the least goals given up in the league to this point with Chicago, and I just think it shows that the goals will come. They'll come in the little chances that they have, no matter what. So
Yeah.
in the end, despite what people worry, goals are going to come. It's not like past years where if the strikers don't perform, we're screwed. It's definitely a bit different than that. So I'm, at this point in the season, also we're riding pretty high. I mean, I haven't seen a real dip in form, and as Jim said, we haven't played our best game, which is scary if we haven't played our best game and we've beaten some fairly decent teams up to this point.
Yeah, and I agree. I don't think we've played our best game either. And what I've been waiting for, and I don't think that there is a club in the MLS unless the Red Bull become a really elite team. but I don't think there's a club that'll force us to possess the ball. And that's like the one thing I do want to see them kind of do. Like, but you remember like 2019, like you had Seattle and Portland coming into Chester, right? And what did they do? They kind of parked the bus. They sat like 10 defenders back, and they used that low block, and we struggled trying to get through that. Elsinio was great with those one-on-one situations, but there's not a club that's going to do that out there. And this system that we're obviously it's working, Justin. Like there is no one that really can slow this down, and it really does start with the defense. But I guess it's going to be good enough. We'll see. I mean, obviously the playoffs is a different story, but for right now, there's no one that just can't stop this. There's just no one.
Yeah, I think in the end, it's the difference between then and now is the Union didn't really have outside of Casper. Their striker core was pretty limited, and I think you were still reliant to a slight point on Elsinio to break it down.
Yeah,
Again, this is also before you really switch to what you have now, where you're at this point the Union don't want possession.
yeah.
I mean, so I think you to try to force a team that doesn't want possession to get to have like to force them to have the ball. It's I don't think we'll see a game this year where
Yeah,
the Union will have over 50%. Like I think the mid 40s has been about as high as they've had, and that's high for them.
it's either a high block and you force a turnover near their goal, or we get that low block and you just get on that counterattack and you got speed. Ua and Carranza, you already know the speed they have. The guys that can keep up with the space with the pace too, and that's just man, it's options. It's options, and it's definitely a lot of fun. Justin, do you remember in our last episode? I really when we talked to MLS going wild, I really wanted to see the right side of the attack, Ali and Harriel predominantly going up against Santos and Etienne, and I thought they did a great job, Justin. I really did, and their chemistry is going great. And oh, by the way, Justin, that video, and I don't know if you saw it on YouTube. You need to watch it. The Nate is teaching Ali like Gen Z slang, dude.
I
Right.
I did see some of it.
Very telling though, Justin, the chemistry that those guys are having right now.
Yeah, I think first off, Zel Rayon had a terrible game. I think
Oh yeah.
that's one of the worst games I've ever seen from him. The fact that he was sub off around like the 80th minute was very telling. And I looked at Tim and I'm like, what are they doing? Like, they still need a goal. There's 10 minutes and you're taking off arguably your best attacking player. And Derek Etienne was a sub, which I thought he was going to start. He was a sub. Still didn't do much. Pedro Santos was too busy complaining to the ref most of the time. Miguel Berry surprisingly didn't do much. I mean, I've always been kind of
Yeah, we were talking about that in 139.
on him. Although, according to Caleb Porter, he's too pretty to be a forward. Did he need some neck tattoos or some stars? I don't know. If you look at the quotes that Caleb Porter's been saying this week, even some Columbus.
Did you say he came from
fans,
San Diego? Is that what he told me?
Yeah, he was playing at Loyal.
Well, that makes more sense, Justin.
But like Caleb Porter's a weird dude, and like these quotes are just like, just take a look at him, man. Like you got a chance. It is just like even some Columbus fans are just like, Caleb, what the hell are you talking about? Like it, I don't know. The Columbus attack. I think you saw when it was clear that they weren't getting anything down the right side. I don't know if you noticed, like they switched Yaboa onto the left side, and they were trying to attack Kai, and
Good
which
luck.
is like if like they were trying to go after Nate first, and for a while, and then that wasn't working. So it's like you're switching to the guy that is just as good, if not a better defender, and I honestly couldn't believe. I was to Tim. I was like, they're they're switching Yaboa, who I will say is a really good talent. Like
Yeah.
I think Columbus has something special with that kid. But man, like if one wingback is shutting your player, attacking player down, I guess that's the only other option you have. But Kai rarely, I said since 2020, he rarely has off defensive games. And I think it's telling because when, at this point, like the biggest, feature I think so far for this Union defense is their outside backs are shutting players down, but and they're forcing crosses. And the difference is that the crosses coming in are really not good. So it's easy for Jakob and Jake to clear. And I think that's showing that if your center backs just have to clean up some very basic crosses, center backs will take that all day. That's real easy work.
Yeah.
And that also shows that your team is a lot more structurally sound than people. And I still think the Union defense doesn't get as much credit as it should, which is
Yeah.
wild because they were top 5 defense last year, and I have no reason to believe that they won't be a top 5 defense again this year.
I agree. I agree. Well, to anchor that defense, man, Andre Blake. Now, listen, we know how the greatness of Andre Blake. I know, by the way, that clip going up against Jack McGlynn where he had him looking like a dummy, that was great as well. But we do need to give him some love because he had 4 big saves on Saturday. And Justin, this is 4 straight shutouts for Andre Blake as well. So, yeah, he's taking his game to another level, dare I say. It's kind of hard to think that, but it's true. It's really true, Justin.
That's the thing. Like that's a wild thing. Like I think people still like forget. Oh yeah, Andre Blake, the 2-time goalie of the year, the goalie who arguably I think is the best goalie in the league. And I think people say, oh well, Matt Turner won it last year. Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to when you win the Supporter Shield and like it was like when the Union, when the Union won Supporter Shield, Jim Curtin won Coach of the Year, Andre Blake won Goalie of the Year. Like those, the categories with that kind of stuff usually falls with the team that had the most success in the regular season. But outside of one season that I've seen for Andre Blake, the man just gets better every year. And the fact this year, last year, your defense was already amazingly solid. And again, having Andre Blake behind an already solid defense is a absolute luxury. But the fact now that your defense is taking it up another level and Andre's taking it up another level, it blows your mind. It blows your mind, and you wonder what, like, at this point, how could this defense get any better? How could this goalie get any better? And I find it hard to come up with a good reason why how they could get any better. Like this is just insane.
It's gonna be crazy, Justin, is North London Derby 2024. You got Matt Turner starting goalkeeper for Arsenal, and then starting for Tottenham Hotspur, it'll be Andre Blake. So that's gonna be wild too. I can't wait to
Well,
watch.
that might be a step down from the Union if you let's not go that far there.
Ooh, the Spurs slander never gets old, man. It's fun. It's always great. It's always great. But look, we'll always take these victories. It's always tough with Columbus. We always talk about how every time it's Union versus Crew, always the home team always has the advantage. We'll see how we fare out in Columbus. It's a different story. It's the first time out in their new grounds as well, right? We didn't go there last year because the first match was still in.
Yeah, the first match, it was right at the beginning of the season. It was
There you
when
go.
it wasn't Mop Frey anymore. It was New Crew Stadium. I don't know. It was really,
Okay.
really, really silly. But
Okay.
yeah, this will be the first time in lower.com field.
Now keep it simple, Justin. Columbus Soccer Stadium. Boom. Done.
Lower.com ain't too difficult.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Justin, from one tough Eastern Conference foe to another, Union travel up to north of the border to face off against the stinking Toronto FC, the Reds. Justin, I still don't like these guys. I don't know what it is, and obviously, it's hilarious, Justin, because this upcoming Saturday, you know how my crazy mind works. We got Sixers versus Raptors, game one, NBA playoffs, round one. And then, of course, you got Toronto FC versus the Philadelphia Union. Dude, what are we drinking Saturday?
Yeah, at this point, just Everclear IV, man. It'll be it just at this point, just get it quick. It's gonna be a wild day.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be one you want to definitely gonna want to prepare yourself for sure. But the last time we were out in BMO Field, if you remember, it was a tough 2-2 draw. It was near the end of the season when you're looking at seedings. That was one where I believe Casper had a couple mishaps, which is nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah, he had one. I believe that it either hit the crossbar or he like just missed it over the crossbar.
Ellie had an own goal as well.
Yeah, Sergio had that goal and then gets hurt. We had the handball that wasn't called a handball, but it should have been a handball because the refs were. I still don't know what the hell they were calling then. And Josie get like the one goal was like it like blasts again. Yeah, like Jack blasts it against the Toronto guy, and Josie's right there. It was one of those games. It was like it was a draw that like you're like
It felt like a loss.
Did it feel like a loss? You're like, it's a point, like it's away, like what's going on? I don't know.
Toronto had nothing to fight for either. Remember, they were out of.
Oh yeah, no, they were again. They had a shit season last year. Like it can't be stated that they were piss poor last year.
Allie gets a first minute goal.
Yeah, which was wild. It was just like I don't even know if I had turned on the game yet or I just turned it on and Allie scoring. It's like, wait, what? Like, what just happened?
What just happened? Hopefully today or on Saturday, we also get to see the debut of the Bayou kits, which we haven't seen in, or we actually did. We saw it in Montreal, but we haven't seen it since then. We obviously wore the 4U kits up in Yankee Stadium, but that should be fun. But let's get to this Toronto FC incarnation, Justin. It's a weird 2-2-2 team right now. Lingering near, I believe they're near the top of the. I think they're in the playoff spot, if I'm not mistaken.
I think just barely. I mean, they'd be up good for 8 points, which is hovering around a playoff spot.
Right. They just came off of a 2-2 draw against RSL, which Salcedo actually got himself a little bit of a red card, and so he will not be in this match this upcoming Saturday. And Justin, when I kind of see this team in Toronto, it looks like a team that's just kind of not in sync. Obviously, we all know they are waiting for the debut of Lorenzo Insigne once Serie A season is done with. But just kind of wanted to start off with this before we get to this as well. Justin, in this league, names don't always win for you. I mean, I think ourselves, even like Atlanta, are great examples of that. Like, we didn't get household names over in Europe or even here. Yet we found guys that fit a system and we executed to the highest ability. And, we obviously heard the joke of, their president essentially going on transfer market for the biggest names who are going to be free agents or close to it and go out and get in them. And that's, funny and all, but it just doesn't feel like there's a set plan for Toronto. They're just hoping that guys like Bob Bradley, Lorenzo Insigne, big names kind of help this team, right?
Yeah, so like Bob Bradley is a good coach. I think there's no disputing it. And what he did with LAFC, turning them to a decent team as quickly as he did, was impressive. I think what he's done to mix the veteran talent that they have already with the academy players that are coming through. Jakob Schaffelberg, Thompson, Royce Juddy, like they have a few players coming through that are pretty solid. But it's like Columbus. Like I don't know what's going on with this team. They started off the season pretty poorly with 2 losses and a draw. Then they come in and win 2 out of 3 and draw the last one. The stats are showing that this team isn't really performing as well as it. I think they might be performing a little bit better than they are. Like, and I think that's kind of what they're hoping, at least until Insigne comes. Now, if they can hold around a playoff spot, I think that's a team that will definitely compete for the playoffs. And with Insigne, I think it'll definitely be boosted. But if they're trying to just keep afloat until one player shows up, I don't know how good that's going to be come playoff time. Like, keeping afloat is great, but if you're not in the best of form, like it showed. Like the Union were in pretty decent form heading into the playoffs, and then they just exploded and obviously ran into the wall that is COVID and were decimated. But it's all about form, and if they're just kind of meh form all year, does that really inspire confidence with the Toronto fan base? Like, what can you say that's like, yeah, you've won 2 out of the last 3 games, but you beat DC, you beat NYCFC, who are still playing terribly, to like not overly convincing wins. It's just been kind of a just strange season for them.
Yeah, man, and it's for them. It's their. It seems like their plan is to stay afloat until Lorenzo comes in, and then they just go full force come summertime and into the playoffs. I do agree they could be competing for playoff spot, but when I look at this league, and this has been a league that has never been known for defense, and we all know that. But when I look at us and I look at like Nashville, they've kind of built strong defensive structures, and both of those teams are successful. And I just don't get why more and more teams don't kind of look at that. Instead, they're going back to, let's get attacking pieces. Let's go find a number 10. Let's go find that lethal winger. And that's great and all, but defensive stability, it goes a long way.
Yeah, I think getting Salcedo was the right step. Like he's a guy
That's going to take some time too, man.
That's been around, a veteran guy that can bring stability to defense. Connaughton is a young center back that is showing glimpses that he could be a nice solid pairing, but they're still having to throw Bradley occasionally in there as center back. We said they're going to be down Salcedo. They're missing Mavinga. Like, that's 2 center backs in a defense that you still have decent wing backs. You have all this young talent, but young talent at the heart of your defense can be exploited. And I think, and I said this, in the preview, it's gonna take a pretty Herculean effort, I think, from Jonathan Osorio, who I think is flown under the radar in terms of being arguably Toronto's most important player the past few seasons. A guy that's been consistent, a guy that has been one of the reasons why Canada made the World Cup and is a very big mainstay on the Canadian national team. I think it's going to take a lot from him to be able to clean up any mistakes and still be able to, help break on the counter, which is, part of his game that goes a bit under the radar.
Where was calling me to poach Jonathan Osorio? I'm sorry. I'm just kidding.
I mean, listen, y'all are too busy,
Without
not scoring in like 7 straight games, man.
Dude, we need like a Robert Lewandowski to be born right now in Medellin, Colombia, because that's what we need right now. We just need a freaking striker, man. That's all we freaking need.
Just give Radamel Falcao 2 good knees, man.
You give him your knees, Justin. Jeez.
Listen, these are damaged goods already. He doesn't need barely more damaged goods. Let's be honest.
Absolutely, man. But getting back to this game real quick, this to me kind of just feels like the Union need to just dominate this game. Like we've talked about this before, but like when I look at this Toronto team, they have been struggling defensively already. And like you mentioned, they're gonna be without Salcedo, more likely to be without Mavinga. That's 2 big pieces of that defense. Michael Bradley, which we haven't gotten to really yet, but He's taken yet another step back into the point where is his time over in Toronto? Is it coming soon, sooner rather than later? Like I thinking after this year, like how do they bring it back? Obviously, still too early. But that's kind of where I've been leading to. But to me, it just feels like this is an opportunity for the Union to put up some goals like fans want.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games where you have the chance to make a statement. I think it's a game where your defense has been playing well. Your midfield's playing well. I think if Mavinga isn't available, like I said, in that defense, that sort of defense is very young, or they play Bradley next to Connaughton. I think that is ripe for the Union counterattack and for them to play balls over the top to get these runners into the
Yes, sir.
channels. This I mean this screams Union doing what they do best.
Yeah, man. And to that point as well with the aerial attack, Toronto's been struggling with that as well. And Justin, we got two guys on each side who can hit some pinpoint passes as well through the air with some crosses. And I expect Harry, we'll obviously we'll get the prediction, but predict either one of the fullbacks will get an assist on Saturday night, man, because they are definitely vulnerable there. All right, so Justin, line up as status quo for this match. A little too early to start rotating guys, right?
Yeah, I think realistically, I don't see a reason why you would rotate. I think you subbed Uwa out around 65th minute. Like you gave him 65 minutes, which was about expected. I think he could go probably similarly around now. Carranza has been arguably one of your best players. Gazdag is still in great form despite not scoring last game. I don't see a reason why you would mess like Jim knows when he knows when to rotate, but he also knows when to not mess with a good thing. And I don't see any reason why you would mess with this lineup.
Yeah, I agree, man. And you mentioned earlier, I love the staple forwards that we have when you have the ability of playing Uwa and Carranza 60 or 60 to 70 minutes each, and then you get fresh legs, two legs that'll absolutely kill you in Sergio Santos, the Toronto FC killer, and Corey Burke. It's just so hard to stop, and of course, I don't think, but obviously, barring any injuries, obviously we saw 2 weeks ago against Charlotte, we had a late one with Ali, and we had to start in Quinn, but I do think that we will stay as status quo for sure. But Justin, you ready for some predictions, man?
Yeah, let's get down to it.
Let's get to it, man. What do you see happening? BMO Field, Saturday night, 7:30. Might be chilly, man. Right? It's still a little chilly up in Ontario. No.
It might be a little chilly. I mean, I know it's getting pretty warm. It was some 80 degrees here today. Beautiful, beautiful day. If you weren't get a chance to sit outside, it was a solid day. But listen, I think riding off of a 5-game winning streak, I think you're coming into Toronto in better form than you've ever come into Toronto. And I mean, I don't see a reason why the Union can't come out with 3 points. I think so far, your last foray into Canada, you beat Montreal 2-1. That was a pretty good game. Uh, this time you're playing on a better quality field, but I see the Union coming out on top 2-1. As I said, I think I'll kind of piggyback on your one of the fullbacks will have an assist. I think it's an assist on an Uwa goal,
Hey now.
and I think it's a pinpoint pass over the top. Kind of similar to the goal that Sergio assisted to
Yeah.
Carranza. But I think this team is playing too well to be tripped up on a game like this. At this point, it for me it's tough to imagine. Like in most seasons, going to Toronto would concern me, but I think any of the time to exploit Toronto, it would be now while you're in good form, while they're kind of still figuring themselves out. I mean, don't get me wrong, they still got Astorio, they still got Pozuelo, Jesus Jimenez. Their striker signing has been fairly decent this year. Um, but I think that the way the Union defense has been playing, the way the midfield has been locking things down, I have a hard time seeing Toronto being able to break this defense down. And that's been the biggest thing is like for all these teams that have such great attacks, the Union have been able to neutralize them one way or the other. I mean, I think the best attack so far you faced this season, besides Columbus, was NYCFC. And you were able to neutralize them on their field. And I think the Union are showing that any field, any attack, they'll adjust to the whatever the parameters are, and they'll lock it down. And I, I have a hard time going against this team in the form that they are right now.
Look, I completely agree with you. I just don't see a way. If well, obviously, look, this is a week to week league, of course, and anything could happen. But if the Union are playing their style of soccer, which we know it is pretty dominating right now with what they have in place, there is no reason why they shouldn't get this victory. I didn't mention that matchup as well, but Alejandro Pozuelos, he hasn't had the same luster since he came in the league for sure. Obviously, battling injuries and whatnot, but he's still someone that has the potential of being lethal. And for Brujo Martinez, stifling yet again another number 10 in this league, I'm genuinely enjoying that for sure. And I think that this Toronto team is just so prone to so many mistakes, and this is not the team you want to be making mistakes with Toronto. So I definitely see Sergio continuing his streak of goals. I could see him coming in for 40 minutes in the second half, getting himself a goal. I see the Union getting a three. I'll go 3-1 victory. I'll see Toronto. I could see Toronto scoring one, but I just think the Union will dominate yet again in this match as well. Justin, what are the chances that MLS Extra Time will show us love after we win on Saturday night?
You'd have a better chance of this league conducting an actual investigation into anything a team does. So less than likely. Like at this point, I don't think the extra time is going to give them really any respect. Like every time they seem to get a little respect, there's always that dig of like, oh well, they're not really scoring goals, or that like it's always something for a team that like you're in first place and you've given up the least amount of goals and you're averaging at least 2 goals a game in most of your games. Like, yeah, I don't know. Listen, no one likes us. We don't care.
Yes, sir.
Fuck everyone else. We'll keep doing our thing.
I agree with you, man. Hey, listen, this happens in every sport. Trust me, and I enjoy. I generally enjoy everyone hating us because you just got to be us to kind of understand us, and that's kind of how it is. And this team is pretty good, Justin. It's all it freaking is, man. It's pretty damn good. Well, Justin, any plans for watching this? Obviously, our boys will be up in Toronto. Do you have any good plans anywhere you're going to be attending for watching this match?
I don't know. I've got some plans during the day. I think I might head over to my usual spot, Zed's Brewery
Shouts to
over in
Zeds.
Marlton to watch the game as I usually do with some other Union fans. So I don't know if you're in the area, the Sons of Ben, they always post where to watch, the away watch parties. Zed's being one of them. They have all the ones in PA and South Jersey that you can go to, and if you see me at Zed's, if I'm there, just don't be afraid to say hey. I don't bite. I might look a little strange, especially with the
A
slightly
fresh
clean
face,
with the
Justin. Look at
slightly
that.
with the slightly fresh face, you know, a little less scruff, but just come on, say, hey, I shoot the shit, have a couple beers, it's all good.
Justin, I didn't get the memo because this bad boy is in full James Harden effect, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was getting a little like I always know it's time to. I never fully shave it because then I look like Mr. Clean, but I always take it down to the bare bones when I wake up and my beard is just kind of like
I can't with you, right?
it gets a little unmanageable. So I'm like, you know what, it's time to
I
start.
thought Brad Guzan was Mr. Clean.
Oh God, that's the last thing you need to be compared to Brad Guzan.
Oh man, I can't wait to play Atlanta. Awesome stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for another episode of Doop by the River. Big thanks to my co-host Justin this week. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more Doop by the River as we give you all these live viewings. And of course, make sure to find us wherever you stream podcasts. We are on PSN Radio, and you can find all of your favorite Philly Sports Network podcasts on there as well. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Justin El Pai del Brujo Friedberg. Of course, I go by the name of El Parcero Philly, and we're telling you guys